Hello, everybody. This is Brian Ankney with Auto Success Magazine. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day today to join us. We've got a lot of really good content for you today. We're going to talk about lost service marketing, and our guest today, Jim Green, Vice President of Sales, Team Velocity. Before we get started, a couple things I'd like to share with you. One, if you haven't joined Auto Success webinars yet, please do. It's a group on Facebook, and I'll keep it short today. I know I've said it lots of times. Just search for the group, Auto Success Webinars, ask to join. Once you're a member of the group, you'll be able to interact with the Auto Success staff, myself, our presenters, and most importantly, each other. Hopefully we can all help each other through that group to achieve the things that we talk about in these webinars. Now, if you enjoy what you see today, please do me a favor and invite other people in the dealership or other people you know around the industry to check us out. You know, our audience is growing, but we have space to grow it even more, and we'd love to keep that going. If there's a topic that you have or that you have not seen that you would like to see, or a person that you feel would be a great guest for one of our webinars, shoot me an email or find me on Facebook. You're all going to get an email from me thanking you for attending today, and that is my real email address. It is an automated email that you get, but it is my real address, so I will get your reply. Please suggest things you'd like to see. Now, with that being said, I would like to pass the reins over to Jim Green, our presenter today. Jim, my friend, please take us away.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, everyone, for taking a little time out of your day today to learn about the lost service marketing. We're going to cover quickly on our agenda today. Just one second here, Brian. There we go.
All right.
We'll be covering on our agenda today a little bit of introduction about the industry itself, some facts and statistics that I think will help, really show the need and the cause for why dealers today should be taking advantage of what's happening in the marketplace, the opportunity, and then really break down into the market, the motivators, the messaging, the mediums that you should be using today, and most importantly, anytime a dealership is going to invest $1 into any kind of outbound marketing program, you want to be able to show some great measurement and if it's really working. And then very briefly at the end, we're going to just cover a case study that we did here at Team Velocity with one of our lost service customers that took on a program very similar to some of the things that you'll see today. So with that in mind, really would like to talk about why is it that service marketing today doesn't necessarily get the attention that, say, the front of the house does, the sales side of our house. And really what happens is that there are some challenges when it comes to service marketing. First of all, almost every dealership that I go into and see, most of the departments basically work in silos, meaning the sales department doesn't necessarily work with the service department nor the parts department. Now, the parts and service obviously work together, but they really are kind of separate businesses within one business under one rooftop. The other thing that's a really good or huge challenge for us is that our manufacturers spend a tremendous amount of money marketing all of our new products and our offers for our new products in terms of the models that we sell, but they do a fairly poor job of actually promoting our services. Now, some OEMs have gotten a little bit better than this, and at certain times of the year, for example, a Toyota will launch campaigns regionally for tire specials that they do. But for the most part, it's pretty much left up to the dealer. The third thing that we see, and one of the challenges in service marketing, is the ability to go after a high dollar RO versus customer frequency. With limited budgets, and that's number 4, with lack of marketing budgets, you kind of got to pick and choose who the customers you're going to go after, whether you get frequency or you go after those customers that are a little more difficult. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that on the front side of the house, we typically see people that are more from a sales-oriented background that get involved with the marketing for our vehicles versus people that typically have come up through our service departments and just don't and haven't been exposed to a lot of really good marketing and a good marketing plan for their service departments. So we do know there's some challenge, but there are some great opportunities. Now, we start looking at the numbers and how much money that we spend as individuals in the United States. Last year, we spent nearly $350 billion, over $340 billion to work on repair on our vehicles. The sad part of that, or actually the opportunistic side of that, is about a third of that, about 29% of that was captured by dealers. Now, we say only. I mean, it's still $98 billion worth of revenue, very profitable revenue, but there's lots of opportunity that you can see that's out there for us to re-engage with customers and capture that business. And no time could be more important to get yourself and your service marketing program in full swing than what's happening in our marketplace right now. We are officially in a down market as of July's numbers that came out with U.S. auto sales. Now, we have been predicting this, or pundits have been predicting this, and for some brands you're still doing fairly well, but for most of us in the market in general, we are sliding into a down market. And if many of you have lived through the 2007, 8, and 9s, it was the fixed ops side of the house, the service side, that really kept most dealerships in business. Now, here's the really good news about service marketing, and that is that all indications are it's going to continue to increase. We've been seeing steady 2 to 3% increases over the last couple of years. We will see that again this year, but it's about a $14, $15 billion increase in service in service dollars that you can be going after. Considering, and here's the reason why, more people are keeping their cars longer, and more cars are older than newer cars. Nearly 2/3 of the vehicles on the road are considered old, average of 11 and a half years, which presents a really good opportunity for dealerships to go after these high dollar, high margin repair orders. As I said, people are keeping their cars longer. It does present the challenge of keeping people out of the market, but one of the things you're going to see that we promote, especially with service marketing, is when you re-engage these customers, you can actually change that out of market over 6 years to a lower term. Some other real quick information before we get into the real kind of the heart of the presentation itself. You can see that probably the number one reason why you should have a strong service marketing program is that if someone does come back to you and has a good experience, they will return to the most recent service provider. So that's 70% of the market that's out there that aren't engaged with dealerships. If you can re-engage those customers, they will be coming back to your dealership, most likely for their next visit. Most will travel a good distance for their routine maintenance as well. And very few people, this is a number I like, very few people are do-it-yourselfers anymore. And the reason being is that cars are very complicated. So we need to take that into consideration. Here's what else Google will tell you, that in 2016, there were almost 2 billion searches for parts and service-related searches. So a lot. That's a 21% increase year-over-year growth. So people are out there, they're looking for information. They want to connect with people who can better meet their needs. However, service loyalty in our business is something we need to address. And once we take a look at what we've been doing, we know that when someone buys a car from us, they have a tremendous amount of contact from not only dealerships themselves that we reach out to them, but also from the manufacturer. We also know that as time goes on, we tend to spend less money contacting our customers over time, and so does the OEM, than we do just trying to reconnect with new customers. Now, the funny thing about that is that in the first couple of years of ownership, repairs and service visits do need to be done, but they're very low dollar repair orders. Not a lot of money is spent during those times. And what's actually interesting as well when you look at the loyalty factor with consumers is that it coincides directly with the amount of contact that we have with them and their loyalty. So at a time when consumers are spending more money on their cars and need to spend money on their cars, we're not spending as much to connect with them. And that's where we think that dealers have a huge opportunity, because when you look at that graph and you look at any one of the dealers, especially in the dealers that we work with and we look at, it's almost a mirror image of how many low volume or low dollar service repair orders that they're doing compared to over time as that dwindles when the customers get into those high dollar ROs. So we say, let's take a look at what we need to be doing here. If you are working with a company and doing service marketing, they should be able to give you some fairly high level numbers. Number one, where are you doing, where are you spending the most of your time working with your customers? Is it below 50,000 miles or over 50,000 miles? And what kind of numbers do you generate? Because you should first start by taking a look at where you're at and benchmarking that number. It's exactly what we do for all of our customers here at Team Velocity, is that when you got the data, you should show the data to be able to say, look at, if 57% of your business is spent on customers with a very low dollar RO, and however, a small portion of your business, or the other part, is with high dollar ROs, doesn't it make sense to go after an RO for a customer that's 3 times as valuable? And in some dealerships, we see this 3, 4, 5 times as much. And it just makes sense. Basically, I need an oil change for the first couple of years of ownership. But if I'm getting years 3, 4, 5, and 6, I need more substantial services done to my car, ones that are much more profitable for the dealership and just make more sense to go after. And that's what the opportunity is today, and really that's what we're here to talk about. How do you engage those customers and capture those high dollar ROs? Well, the first thing that we need to look at and that we really want to examine is start at the top. Where should I go and who should I go after? So basically, a good program should be targeting the right customers. And for us, a lost service marketing program clearly would go after customers that you've engaged with, whether they purchased with you in the past and serviced and fell off, or they came in and serviced and then fell off. Someone's engaged you as a lost customer. Now, you can use any parameters you want to determine what a lost customer is in your dealership. And it should be different for each dealership. So you should have the ability to set your lost service marketing program around when you want to connect with your customers. For example, if you're a Mercedes-Benz dealership that has, doesn't recommend that their vehicles have their oil changed every 3,000 or 4,000 miles, 5,000 miles, but more like 75 to 10,000, you might set that parameter at a little longer, maybe 8 to 9 to 10 months. But if you're a Honda or a Nissan owner and you need to see customers because you're financially incentivized by your OEM and your president awards, or they're dictated by how often you see your customers, the majority of your customers back in your service department, which is twice or more a year, you're going to probably want to set that down a little bit lower. And so you're getting messages out to customers who are lost that you know, so you can see them more frequently. And of course, you also want to be talking to what we would consider to be true conquest customers. These are people that live near you, drive your brand, but have never been into your service department. So that's really who we like to focus on when we talk about lost service marketing here at Team Velocity. Customers who have not been in for a while that you establish based upon your dealership, and customers who live near you who have never been into your dealership. Now, the first thing we need to do is, where should we go? Because again, we do have limited budgets when it comes to service marketing, so we need to be very dialed into the customers we're talking to in the geographic area that we're in. So first of 2 things you need to look at is the distance from your dealership and the traffic patterns and other consumer convenience factors when you need to be taken into consideration. And the way we do this, and the way you should be doing this, is you should be working with data or a vendor that has access to your data and plotting these on a map. You should only be spending money on those areas, in this case a zip code, that will help you, or zip codes, that encompass the majority of where your historical businesses come from. Because believe it or not, your historical service transaction patterns are a very good indicator or a path to where your future business will be. The only caveat to that is if a new point comes in, or a major road changes, or a point leaves that competes with you. But look for where about 70+% of your business is. And you also want to make sure that you plot this and your competitors and all of those, not only competing dealerships, but independents on a map. This will give you a really good idea of traffic flow, where your competitors are, but most importantly, all of those independents who take about 70% of your service dollars away from you, where they're at. You should take all of this into consideration when building a lost service marketing program for a variety of reasons, which we'll touch on in just a moment. Conversely, you should also look and make sure you're using data to determine where you ought not be spending your dollars. Because in this example, it's not too far away from this dealership. A data marketing company might tell you, hey, there's 1,465, in this case, Honda owners, same brand owners living in this zip code. But when you really look at it, if you're not using your data to make and support these decisions, you're probably making some bad decisions, because only less than 0.18% of their total service business is built upon the backs of these 1,400 plus Honda owners in this particular zip code. So this would be an area that we would most likely steer a dealer clear of. So just because you have a lot of customers in a geographic area, and you might market to those customers from a sales perspective, because there's different motivating factors for sales of new vehicles and used versus servicing and service transactions, make sure that's concentrated to that area where you do the bulk of your business. And a good data company can tell you that as well. It's really what you need to rely on when it comes to service marketing. Now, a couple of other things you should be taking into consideration when you start looking at the area and who you should be talking to, your market. Do those customers still live in that area? Even though you've got someone in your database that bought a car from you and serviced with you a year ago, you need to make sure you're cleansing that data to figure out if they actually still live at that address. If they do not a good idea to spend any amount of money trying to contact them. Also, what you need to be able to do is work with a company that can identify those same brand owners that move into that area that you've identified as a good area for you to market to. So you need to be taking these two things into consideration, but mostly what you need to figure out is that people move a lot, so it's very important for us. Now, how do we make sure that we filter out and only talk to customers that make sense versus customers that don't make sense? We talked about where they live. Do they still live at that address? Most importantly, and in particular for us here at Team Velocity Marketing, is we want to verify ownership. Ensure that if you're doing this, that someone still has that car sitting in their driveway. Ownership verification is so key when it comes to lost service marketing. Again, you have very limited budgets. You need to stretch and make those budgets work in the best possible manner. And really the only way you can do that is on a one-to-one basis. It's to ensure that that money is spent on people that live in that area and that still own that vehicle. So just ask and make sure they're doing that. And I would even ask them to show you a list of the people that no longer own the cars. It's really something that all of our dealers have access to, so that you'll know that these people truly are in your marketplace. Now as it starts to get fun, we start to identify the motivators of what really makes it a really good lost service marketing program. Well, first let's understand what's motivating our consumers. We all are car owners, and we all actually know that we need to maintain our car. I mean, I'm motivated by maintaining my car so I can keep it as long as I want to keep it, or if I want to resell it, I can show that I've actually done the work. There's lots of good motivators, but I need to maintain my car. The other thing is I want to do it somewhere that's trustworthy and convenient. You know, my car is important to me. Some people give their cars names. Some people call them their babies. So you want to make sure you're taking it someplace that is trustworthy. There's also things that people understand that they do want a good value. There's not a person out there that owns a car today that doesn't want to get a good value and a good price. Now, that is the biggest motivator, but everybody wants a reasonable value and a reasonable price. And here's what most people know, especially with the consumers that you're going to be targeting. These consumers have older vehicles. These vehicles have more miles on them. They obviously could use more than just an oil change in most cases. And most of these people actually know this. In surveys that we've done and research that we have, people tell us, yeah, I know I've got a car with 65,000 miles on it. I expect that there's going to be things that I need to do. So if I'm going to take the time out of my busy day to take my vehicle someplace, I'd kind of like to go someplace where I could get tires, where I could get major services done, maybe get my car washed. So these are the real motivators, but here's what's happening in the business, and guess who knows this as well? The people who know this and are very good at this are the independents. The main thing that they feed off of is that convenience that people need and want. That's why you see literally on that map that we showed you before, the dozens of independents. You guys all work in dealerships. Just count how many independent repair facilities and the small box Jiffy Lubes of the world are all near auto malls or auto rows or near your dealership. It's because they want to connect with your customers by having that advertising sitting right where the customers drive. But they also only do service, and it's their only business. So they can only really talk about things that are about more locations, convenient, faster service, no appointments, less expensive. Let me ask you something. Can you compete on all those as well? And we believe you can with the right messaging that goes out to consumers, which is what we're going to focus on now. See, we like to take that exact same philosophy that service is their only business and take those things that they say they're better at than we are and really prove that that's wrong. Because there are a lot of advantages that you have right now if you market precisely to your customers that make sense. Because I, as a consumer, do want someone that's trustworthy. I do want someone that's convenient, and I do want someone that is someone's going to charge me a good price. But you know what else? I drive a fairly sophisticated vehicle like we all do. It's got lots of computers, lots of components. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure I can trust someone like a kid making $15 an hour or $10 an hour with no prior experience to work on my car. So we promote things like OEM and ASE Master Certified Technicians. We promote things for our dealers that talk about, and so should you as a best practice, the millions of dollars that you spend in your service centers each year updating with new equipment and diagnostic systems. We promote convenience items because, again, convenience isn't just the fact there's multiple locations. Convenience comes to me in the term of loaner cars and shuttle service. Convenience comes with having a nice area for me to actually spend an hour and a half if I need be. And of course, is there any dealership today that is servicing vehicles that is not competitively priced in your marketplace, at least on those items that most people need most often? We don't have a dealer that doesn't advertise very competitive prices. And that's what we want to do too. So put these messages out, whether you're using mail, which is a good, email, or digital. You have the ability to go out and highlight all of those things that make you just as convenient, actually more so than a lot of these independents. Now, we're just looking at independents here that like the Jiffy Lubes, and we've all probably experienced one. A little place, a little room with a 24-inch TV. We're not even talking about the thousands of independent repair shops that have none of this, that aren't convenient. The next thing we want to talk about is how do we stack up? Let's show our pricing differences. There is nothing wrong with you, and as a best practice, showing how your prices compare to your competitors in the marketplace for like services. You should be working with a vendor for your loss servicing marketing that it has the ability to dynamically and variably price all of your services. As a matter of fact, we think that you should be, as a best practice, promoting services that customers actually need. I want you to pay particular attention to this section. When I say those services that people need, you're saying, Jim, how do we know what our lost customers need? They haven't been back for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, or anybody that's a conquest customer. How do we know that? Well, you have data that's available to you through some companies that can actually have access to what customers have done. We have it here at Team Velocity Marketing, and what we want to make sure that we do is Jody Schuyler bought her Mustang from us. She was last in our dealership just a little over a year ago, so under our parameters here at this store, she falls into the lost customer category. And guess what? We have information that shows her just a few months ago when her vehicle had 77,000 miles on it, she had these 3 things done: a tire rotation, an oil change, and an air filter replacement. So do you think that we're going to market to Jody right now any of those services? Absolutely not. We're going to market services that we know she needs on the vehicle. And the same is true for Daniel. Daniel was a customer of ours. He hasn't been back for over 2 years now, or 3 years now. But the last information that we received that in May, with 58,000 miles on his F-150, had a major service and alignment of brakes. So do you think we're going to send him a brake special or a major service special? That's not going to motivate him to come into our dealership. And the same thing for Keith. He's driving a vehicle. He lives 1.5 miles from the dealership. He's never been in. He's a true conquest customer. And a few months ago, with 60,000 miles on his vehicle, he had an emissions test, a radiator flush, and a battery replacement. So what we say is, in addition to other coupons, send offers to people that make sense. Records indicate that Jody's probably due for a brake service. Let's send her, amongst other offers, but first and foremost, an offer for a service that she needs. We know that Daniel, he probably does need tires because our records indicate he hasn't had tires on that vehicle. Put that first and foremost out in your advertising with 3 or 4 other nice specials. And since Keith has never been into our dealership, and we know that he's due for an oil change, boy, I know if I can get Keith engaged with my dealership, I'm willing to bet and throw, the cost of an oil change at this guy to get him in there because his car's got 60,000 miles on it. That'd be a pretty good car that's going to start needing some high mile or high dollar RO on it. I want to get him engaged. So I might give him a free oil change. See, that's how we think you should be marketing with companies right now or to your consumers. If the technology and the data is out there that allows you to literally put an individual offer based upon services that consumers actually need, we think this is the very best way to reach and re-engage with your lost and conquest customers. Now, if you don't have that technology, there still are some methods that you can take, which would be using those services that will generate the highest, kind of the general offers that are out there. But you market to the masses probably is not going to be as effective, but what it will be is it'll at least get some people into the doors for you. And we know that those ran, not in this order, the highest response rates are brakes, oil change, and coolant, tires, and ignition system, things like battery starter, battery repairs. So if you don't have a system in place to get very specific with actual services based upon actual needs, please make sure that you're relying on a vendor to prove to you why they're doing this. And again, you need to have some variable pricing in there as well, because just in any example, the longer someone has been away from you or never engaged you, probably the deeper discount you're going to need to motivate them to come in and give you a try the first time. So make sure that you have the ability to set pricing on services for every service, not just an oil change, but brakes, tires, you name it. Everything should have a variable price based upon their activity level. So lost is a little, is discounted, but not as deeply discounted as someone who's never been or hasn't been in for an extended period of time. So we've got through that. Let's talk about really how you should be engaging with customers. And this would be the fourth part of this, which is the mediums. Mediums are very important because you need to make sure you're going where the customers are if you're going to re-engage them. So first and foremost, we know if you know where the customer lives and you know that they have that vehicle in their driveway, doesn't it make sense on a monthly basis to send them a communication that offers those services that either they need or are very popular to engage them? We think it is. How about online display? Do you think people are out there online? Absolutely. How about some paid search? You should be doing paid search. You have an incredible opportunity with paid search, as we will see in a moment. Again, lots of people are using that mobile device. You should be out there and make sure everything is on mobile. Email. Email is basically free, but you should be having very targeted and specific email based upon the consumer. Obviously, you should be reaching out with people through social media, primarily Facebook, and outbound calls. If you have a BDC and you have this information and you know customers have been gone for a while, and if you've engaged these other mediums, it's really easy to call people on the phone. If you know that you've mailed someone a service special for a $19 oil change because they need an oil change, and you know that your internet department sent out an email to that same customer, or your marketing company did, and you know that you're running paid search ads in your marketplace, why not have someone pick up the phone call and talk to these consumers? You'd be surprised at the amount of service appointments that you will set with customers that are lost, defector, or conquest by reaching out with them a phone. Works especially well if you've engaged with some other mediums to kind of prime the pump and set the stage. Now, how should it look? It should look consistent across all of these mediums, in particular a mobile device and where you land them. Make sure your pricing, your ads, and everything are consistent. You should automatically be able to do this on a monthly basis. Folks, everything that this is should take very minimal effort at the dealership level. You know what your pricing is for these services. it really doesn't change. It's not like at the front of the house where we have an incentive on a brand new Camry that's going to drop the payment from a $199 lease to a $149 lease from July to August. We know what oil changes cost. We know what brakes cost. And unless someone like a Toyota is running our buy three, get one for $1 sale, which they'll probably do again this fall, unless that's happening, we kind of know it. So set it up with your price and your matrices so that you can communicate with your customers. We believe firmly in using mail because, again, it's a one-to-one communication sent to somebody where you know they live and you know they have that vehicle in their driveway with specials that are tailored to them. You should also automatically send out some emails a couple times a month. Emails are a fantastic way to get lost customers back into your dealership, especially if you've got them tailored in a mobile-first friendly design with variable offers and pricing that are relevant to them. And if they click on that, it will land them on a landing page that coincides exactly with what that email said. Now, paid search. You should be dedicating some money to paid search. Here's the great news. You can compete with everybody on a search perspective, even the Jiffy Lubes and all the independents that are out there, the Penske station or the Penske service, because it's real easy for you. It does not cost a tremendous amount of money. We're not talking about the same kind of budgets we need for front of the house. What you can do for probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month is well worth it, as long as you can track the results and you see the results. And you should ensure when you're doing paid search that you have great ads. This is what converts. Make sure you've got a top ranking. Make sure you've got relevant ad copy, pricing extensions. Highly important here. Click to call. Make sure you have a click to call on these. This will generate a tremendous amount of service appointments. Obviously, location extensions. And make sure that the ad looks well on a mobile device, so it's optimized specifically for mobile. And it lands on, again, a relevant page if they don't call you. The one thing that will happen is if someone clicks on your oil change ad and it does not land them on a page with that information where they can quickly see it, you're probably going to lose that consumer. Social, another great way to market your lost service business. About 60% of all of your customers engage in Facebook at a ridiculously high rate on a daily average. So you should be using your data, engaging that with Facebook's data, figuring out which of your customers have a Facebook site, figuring out then segmenting those down into your lost customers and conquest marketing too, and again, offering ads based upon their activity level within your dealership. Because if you have the data and you know who the customer is, you can put an ad in front of that customer that matches, again, their activity level, their variable pricing, and their variable services. The technology's out there to do it. Just get with someone who can help you do that. And, of course, landing people on relevant pages. Ensure that when you land people on pages, you land them where that information was. So you can't land them within your site and have them search for it. You got to land them right there. So lastly, as we go through lost service marketing, let's just talk a little bit about measurement. Now, it's very important that you understand how to monetize what your efforts are from a marketing perspective. So ensure that you have insight into what is going on, the average monthly RO count before you started with these lost and conquest customers, the average month or the average RO, where you're at, and the increases. You want to make sure that you have this information readily available to you. You should be able to drill down with a good marketing partner to see just how effective it is in each one of the zip codes. So are you growing year over year, each month, the business in the areas they say that you should be marketing in? Again, fairly straightforward stuff, but when it comes to spending dollars in marketing, a lot of dealers aren't as inclined to give them as much budget as they need, but yet they should be. And we kind of always talk about, is the juice worth the squeeze? And we will show you that it absolutely 100% is worth every dime that you invest if you invest it correctly. So here's a Honda dealership that the year before they came on this program was averaging about 2,300 ROs per month, about 2,281 ROs per month with this program. Afterwards, averaging about 400 ROs more when they went to specific lost and service marketing. The one thing that I love the most about this, and this is going to be a category that you will see and start talking about, if you're not talking about it now, you will certainly be talking about it in the months to come as we start to see a decline in new unit sales and new unit production, and that is how many active customers are you re-engaging on a monthly basis. So prior to this program, this dealership was engaging about 350 customers a month. That was pretty good. Customers that were, had been lost, had been conquest, or were conquest, that were now re-engaged with their marketing. When they went on a specific lost marketing program, just like we went through, that nearly doubled. Now, what happens to the dealership when that nearly doubles? Yes, of course, we get a high dollar RO, which is outstanding. We do want those. But as we know in this business, the more time someone comes back to your dealership for service, the more likely it is they'll buy the next car from you as well. So when we start looking at our customers, our dealers that we manage, we look at this on a monthly basis. But most importantly, and this is what I really like to show customers, because really the biggest part of your, as we saw in the graphs at the beginning, the biggest part of your service revenue is generated off of an active client. That's someone who just bought the car and continues to come back. And if you're Toyota, you get 2 years of 25,000 miles worth of service. A lot of manufacturers do that. A lot of you guys have prepaid maintenance plans that you offer your customers so that there's 2, 3, 4 years that they own the vehicle so they come back. But the bulk of that is in an active customer. And most dealerships, here's what you'll see. It's about a 90-10. It's about a 90-10 split. The bulk of your service dollars come off of active customers, 90% of it, and 10% is made up of lost, re-engaged lost customers or purely conquest customers. Look what happened with this dealership. He was pretty much on that track. 2015, 90-10. 2016, 89-11. But look where they're at now. They have moved the needle and moved the revenue by getting more and more of those lost customers and those conquest customers because they're high dollar, high margin ROs. I hope you found this informative. Clearly, we like to always open it up to questions. The more questions, the better. I'm fairly certain I should be able to answer most of your questions, and if not, we will certainly write those down and get you the answers. So, Brian, I'll kick it back to you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Brian with Auto Success. Jim, thank you. That was a lot of good information. We do have some questions that have already come in. I would like to invite you all to go ahead and put your questions in now. If you're not familiar with the GoToWebinar format, near the bottom of your GoToWebinar pane, it says questions. There's a little triangle there. You click on it. It allows you to type in your questions. Hit enter. They come in. If you're on a smart device of any sort, Apple and Android work differently. Some of the Android manufacturers even work differently. You either have a header, you have a footer, or you have a picture frame that goes around your screen. Somewhere in there is a question mark. Touch it. It'll give you the opportunity to type in a question. And then some of them will let you swipe to come back. Others will require you to find another icon that looks like a desktop flat screen monitor. And so, yeah, please go ahead and type in your questions for those of you who have not yet. Jim, our first question is, if we have advertised only where service is coming from, should we not try other zip codes too?
Well, I guess I would, if you've only advertised in, so I guess the question is, they've been advertised in a certain area. They think they should branch outside of that area. That's why I would go back to looking at. That's why you need to. Well, the answer to that question, off the top of my head, is no. And the no is because unless you have done the analysis of from a geography standpoint and are using data to manage where you're at, and on the back end understand how the results are coming out of those zip codes. Make sure you're maximizing those zip codes, because if you're looking at, say, 10 zip codes that you're doing service marketing into right now, and you've gotten flat, and you've gotten flat results, or you're not seeing any growth, for example, make sure that you understand. Well, again, it just comes down to the data itself. You can go outside of that, but there's a lot of factors in that in getting outside of that 75% plus of your existing business. So I'd have to actually, for this to answer that question legitimately, I'd have to actually look at the geographic region, see what you've been doing. Now, what I would say is, on the plus side, pretty easy to do, look at what mediums you've been using. So, for example, if you have a two-medium strategy, like let's just say email and mail, maybe it'd be time to look at a couple of the other mediums that you might want to get, like a digital presence, and certainly looking at who you're calling or engaging your BDC if you haven't been making outbound phone calls.
All right. That question was a little more complex than what I thought when I first saw it up there. Here's one that this one came in when you were talking about the discounts. It says, what percentage discount should we offer at 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, or never been in?
Great question. Again, I would fall back to see what this is what a good loss marketing vendor partner will do for you. They'll put an analysis together of what your competitors are doing in the marketplace. So you always want to price accordingly. So you don't need to, we don't need to completely give everything away. But when you start talking about the intervals at which you should be discounting your services, you also need to be looking at what those ROs are bringing in. For example, I have a lot of dealers that say, I don't want to give a $9.95 oil change, or I'm losing money on a $19.95 oil change if I do that. And then all these people that always come in are just getting that and then leaving. Well, 100% of the time when I have that conversation, we rely back on the data and we look at it. The average ROs are typically about $100 to $150 higher than with those customers who didn't get marketed to with those deeply discounted offers. So I wouldn't say there's just like a one size fits all. Like, okay, if your normal oil changes, let's make it easy, is $50. If they haven't been back for 6 months, we need to go to $45. And if they haven't been back for 12 months, we need to go to $40. And if they've never been in, we need to be at $25. Your normal pricing should be what it is. Your active customers who are on a predictive model to most likely come back just need to be reminded. We didn't talk about marketing to active customers, obviously, and this is strictly lost. But you will see, and here's the good thing too. You should be doing some, if you're working with a partner, especially let's say you're doing mail and email and you know who the customers are, it's pretty simple to, in the very first month of engagement, do a little A/B testing. If you're not sure in your marketplace, it's not difficult to do. Say I'm going to do a 5,000 piece mailer, run half at a $29.95 oil change and half at a $19.95 oil change. Monitor the results and see what comes in. And if you find that more people are coming on the 19, great, move it to 19. My bet is, though, at the end of the day, the average RO between the two will be very similar, and you will see that the results work. But you should be able to work with a vendor that should be able to provide you with that and help you dictate the terms of your discounts.
All right. The next question, Jim, is should we touch them monthly with more than digital, and how much is good?
Well, I use that answer. I'll answer this very simply. You should be touching every one of your customers multiple times from a loss servicing perspective on a monthly basis. Now, how do you do that? When I say multiple touch points, fairly simple. Number one, mail them your very best offer based upon their activity level in your dealership, whatever that variable pricing is, on a monthly basis. It's the Bed Bath & Beyond theory of service marketing. Most people who, and if you're on the phone and you're a Bed Bath & Beyond consumer, you know that every single month you get a mailer with a 20% coupon on it, and that never expires. So people know that's really good. But that's not the limit of what they do. They also email all their customers. So we say you should be emailing those customers. And email today, because of the mobile, because of our mobile devices, I mean, I would say, let me see a show of hands, but I won't. But just think to yourself, raise your hand if you really don't get bothered by emails anymore, you just delete the ones that aren't. I haven't unsubscribed from an email, and I can't remember how long. And we're seeing unsubscribes on our dealers with email marketing at an all-time low, and it's because people just don't care anymore. I'm on my phone so much that when I see something that is interested me, I'll click on it. So from a mail perspective, one time a month. From an email perspective, I would do multiple, because, and when I say multiple, 1 to 2 times is probably enough. Now, online display, I would have a nice online display for your service that goes on Google and Bing's display networks that will follow, not follow them, but at least connect with them on the major sites. I mean, no, it's pretty easy to do. I definitely would have paid search, and that is something that allows them to connect with you when they're ready. And what you will see is, and here's why paid search is so important in the service marketing world, and we see this on the front of the house. We see it doesn't matter. Someone gets a piece of mail in their hand, and they see that they can get an oil change, and they search it, and they find you when they're ready. It's really what mail is really good at, as well as getting people to connect with you online, having them go search, and we see this. The same thing on the front of the house applies to the back of the house. There's no different. So when someone sees something a couple times and they're ready to have that done, and they search it and they find you, that's why you should be on search as well. So I think there's too much. I mean, you don't want to be sending an email out every single day to a customer, but a mail piece a couple times a month on an email and having a good digital strategy is a must.
All right. Our next question is, what is the name of some of the software that is able to display where or what the customers have had done to their cars?
That's a proprietary relationship that we have here at Team Velocity Marketing that is not that other companies, if there are, I'm not at liberty to blast that out just because of the agreements that we have with the data provider. That being said, if anybody would like to connect with me and understand how we do that, I would certainly be able to, on a one-off, am allowed to, on a one-off, talk to you about that.
All right. If why don't you go ahead and let everybody know your email address,
Sure.
so that they could ask you that, if you don't mind.
No problem. It's just J Green, the letter J, Green, at teamvelocitymarketing.com.
All right. And for those, if any of you have had to get in your car and are driving, or you don't have a pen, or you happen to be walking around in the service drive, whatever it might be, if you were not able to get that, as I said earlier, you are going to get an email from me thanking you for coming, an automated email. Just reply to that asking for Jim's contact information, and I'll get it for you if you want to, if you have a further question on that or any other topic. Our next question, Jim, is lost connection for a bit, so forgive if already asked. How do you get the 10% info in the 90-10 scenario?
That's a great question. If you're working with any data marketing company, they should be analyzing all of your transactions. So just like at the end of the month, where they will tell you, hey, you sold 140 cars a month, new cars, you sold 68 used cars. Here's the amount of gross profit that you made on each, both front and back. Same thing applies on the service side of things. Taking a look at your data and analyzing it, and this is something, if you're working with a really good data marketing company, then this is something they should do prior to even engaging you in the business, but then monitor on a monthly basis as well. So basically, it's just taking all of the ROs that come through come through on a monthly basis and saying, okay, Jim Green came in, he's an active customer per our standards and our definition. He comes in once every 4.5 months into our dealership, so he's an active customer. He falls into the active bucket. That counts as one there. John Brown is a lost customer, and he got re-engaged and he came back in. That would count there. So when you add them up with the totality over 30 days or 12 months, you start to see that you will see your trends. And that number you will see pretty much will show you that the overwhelming majority of your dealership's revenue comes from customers that are frequent in the first couple of years of ownership, just like we saw in the graphs. I mean, there isn't a dealership that we've ever pulled data from that doesn't fit basically along those lines within a couple percentage points of that. We've never, let me put it this way, never have gone into a dealership and pulled the data where it's 50-50, or 50% is active or 50% is active, 30% is lost and 20% conquest. It just doesn't exist. But you can reverse those. You can reverse that with a good loss service marketing. And really, the reason is because we don't do loss service marketing well. We let our customers go after the first couple of years, and then hope to re-engage them. And that's just the way most service marketing, whether it's the OEMs or whether it's the dealership, we have a tendency to quit after a couple of years. So the trends follow in the same way. But any good data marketing company should have that information for you.
All right. This is a follow-up question. What is a typical move you can make with team velocity 90-10 metric?
If you employ this strategy, literally in the first month, you'll see a change. When I say literally, I mean exactly in the first month you will see changes. And in this dealership's case, it was a couple of points the first month, a couple of points the second month, and it's kind of leveled off at where it is now. But you can see that just like new sales, market share in new sales is measured in tenths of a percent. This same kind of metric is real in the service side of the business too. Reversing a trend and getting more people engaged obviously is better for your business because you get more revenue. But once you get there, you can see that when 80% of your business, and by the way, that's still good. They're just increasing RO count on the backside with loss and conquest customers to make up for it. So they're running 400, 500, 600 some of these dealerships more ROs a month on the backs of that loss and conquest customer. It doesn't mean their active customers have dropped down. It just means because those counts are still high. It's just that they're getting more and more people coming in that are later in the life of the car, which is offsetting that number, so getting that 80-20 split.
All right. Well, Jim, it looks like that's our last question. We have a whole stack of people saying thank you, great presentation, awesome presentation, by the way. Looks like we've got a whole lot of really, really nice praise, but we are out of questions. A couple things I'd like to share with our audience before we go, Jim. Hey, if you guys enjoyed this presentation and there's somebody else at your dealership that you think would benefit from seeing this presentation, we did record it, and so reply to my email or send Jim an email, and we'll make sure you get a link to where you can either watch this again if there's content you'd like to review, or share it with some of your other team members or anybody you think might find value in it. And if you enjoyed this webinar, please join us again for future webinars. Jim, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience, before we let them go this afternoon?
No, just great questions and good interaction. And if you need any more information about anything that we discussed today, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. We'll get back with especially if you think of a question or just something you want to see more detail on. Let me know.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you very much. Everybody that's on the call right now, thank you for coming. I hope to see you again on a future Auto Success webinar. Have a great afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you.